It's the season for brand new mulch, and Brown's Tree Service has got your yard covered. Brown's Tree Service utilizes hardwood mulch that retains more moisture. Not only does mulch make your yard more appealing, it also reduces weeds, improves soil, and creates insulation for plants. Get the right mulch for your job at Brown's Tree Service. They shred it, haul it, and spread it in bulk. Or you can haul it yourself for the personal touch to your property. Call Brown's Tree Service at 785-379-9212 or visit online at brownstreeservicelc.com.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.
This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. We normally air at 10 a.m. on Saturdays, but because of this wonderful game, I wanted to give you a little bit about the show. This is Real Estate 101. We talk about all things real estate, things that impact real estate, so be sure and listen at 10 a.m. on Saturdays on 580 a.m. and 104.9. Next month's show, what I do every month is I have a guest for the month, and we really break things down about what it is they do and how that impacts you. You can check all those shows out at thepreferredadvisorsteam.com or my Facebook page. It's called Real Estate 101. So check those out. But next month, our show is going to be about something a little outside of the box, like literally. I know the cost of building is really, really expensive right now. And obviously, because of COVID and having a lack of supplies, that's definitely driving those costs up. But this company is called Legacy Post and Beam. And they are going to be on the show talking about how they put together kits to actually build what you're looking for. So they have a website, and it's called legacypostandbeam.com. So you can do some little homework before we have them on. And we're going to spend the month talking about what it is they do. Everything from Morton-style buildings to actual barn homes to homes. So be sure and listen next month. That'll be my guest for October. But right now, my guest for September is Kisha Steineger, and she is with Care Patrol. Good morning, Kisha.
Hi, Carrie. How are you?
I am good. So last week we were talking about when it comes time to make a decision to transfer out of your home into assisted living or, long-term care. And obviously, as a mom and a dad, you think, okay, well, this day is a long ways away, but it's also good to have had that conversation and also to take that burden off of your children. But, we never know when mom and dad might get sick, and as my age is, I'm a little older, having to look at, well, what are the possibilities of having to pick that out for mom and dad or go with mom and dad or help them with the research. So that is what Kisha does. So Kisha, let's break down what would you want somebody to know about what you do?
Sure. So I help people find the best, most appropriate care option available, whether that is independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, or memory care, or even if it's staying in the home and bringing additional services in and maybe doing some home modifications. I can refer out for things like that as well. So if it's somebody that just needs a little bit of help, but, they still want to live at home and they're getting out and able to drive and still being social, maybe they just can't do stairs very well and the laundry is downstairs. We can bring in home care services from anywhere from 1 hour to 24 hours per day, and that can be, a day, a week. Maybe you just need 3 hours a month, something like that. So I try and find the most cost-effective solution that allows someone to remain as independent as possible for as long as possible. And then when the next bridge comes, we're there to hop on and help.
So you do this every day. How long have you been doing this?
I have been with Care Patrol for 3 years, and then I was with a home care company for about 5 years. Before that, I didn't do the actual care, but I went in and did care plans and consultations and kind of set all of that up. So my background is really a lot of home care as an option. Now I think everyone needs a different option. Some people have the means to afford and be able to do up to 24-hour care, 7 days a week at home, and can do that because they live in one level and, things like that. Others, a better option is moving to a community that has bingo and outings and, more of that type of social aspect to it. So I just believe now that everybody has a completely different, answer that works best for them. So we just try and help them find it.
I think the really interesting thing about what you do is you're in and out of these facilities all the time. So you can listen to the concerns of the people that you're meeting with and actually guide them and give them choices. And you go with them to actually view the properties too, correct? Right.
We're typically a little bit more of a silent participant, but we'll meet with our families beforehand, kind of tell them, this is why I chose this particular community as one that we should look at. These are things to look for and questions to ask. And then if they forget to ask a question, I can always chime in. At that point, I could practically give half these tours myself these days, I think.
It's amazing. After you've done it for so long, you definitely get to where you can do it in your sleep.
Oh, exactly. Exactly, and it's really fun. It's kind of, I'm sure you have the same thing when you meet with a new client and you know some of the houses that are in your inventory. You meet with them for 30 minutes and you've already kind of narrowed down the top few houses. They're going, I know they're going to love one of these houses and not these ones. And I'm pretty good at picking quickly.
Which is awesome. So let's look at it from a kid's aspect, because I know for me, I really haven't had that conversation with my mom. My dad has passed on, as far as what long-term care would look like. And so, speaking from experience, I don't even know how to start that conversation. Do you have any advice on that?
Sure. A few things that I would really consider is where your mom or dad are living and what that situation looks like. Are they in a small town where there are a lot of supports around? Somebody that just, is a good friend and runs to the grocery store for mom or dad versus, living in more of an urban setting where they might not know their neighbors. Do they have stairs that are going to be a fall risk? And then now they're using, a walker or a cane or something like that. How are their medications going? Do they remember to take them on time every day? Does someone else set up the pill box, or are they still able to do that themselves? Looking in the refrigerator is a really good way to kind of see how things are. If you notice a lot of expired foods, that would raise a bit of a red flag to me. And driving. Of course, if you run into your parents a couple times and you're always meeting them somewhere, see about having them drive at some point. Ride with them and make sure that they're still able to do that. And, if you start to notice anything a little bit off, it's probably time to start asking, Mom, are you doing okay? Can I help you with this? Or if they live far away, maybe to start talking to them about moving closer, because then it takes the pressure off of, oh, I'm aging and my child thinks I'm failing, and this is my child. They can't talk to me that way, as opposed to making it more of a, I'm concerned and I really need you more around me, and it would make me feel better if you were close by. So those are some of the things that I would start with. Unfortunately, it's a difficult, conversation no matter what. And I've seen it go all different kinds of ways, but, approaching it from the aspect of I am concerned or I need you to be closer to me seems to work best.
And you would think for me that would be super easy given what I do, because I see that transition a lot and have helped with so many over the years. And just, the overall gist of it, because mom and dad, I think they typically notice when things get a little bit harder. Like my mom had mentioned, I don't like to drive at dark anymore because I kind of get lost on my way home. And I mean, looking at her, she's still super fit. She has sharp conversations, but for her to admit I get lost whenever I'm in the dark. And they're common streets, and she's in a really small town. So that was a super big red flag. But at the same time, her mom was the same way. And, we always want to look at mom and dad like they're never leaving us. And so, but my mom's mom, her dad would say, she doesn't remember as well as she used to, or your mom forgets a lot. And that didn't really trigger for everybody that she had full-blown, she was moving her way into full-blown dementia. Because she was super fit, you would never know, always dressed to the nines, kind of just different. You don't notice if you're not there every day.
Right. And I get that pushback from families a lot, where it's a daughter or somebody that lives, on the coast, and mom or dad live here, and they see them, once a year or something, and don't realize that, they can kind of compensate for each other. So sometimes one of them has a terrible memory but is physically pretty independent, and the other one, has some physical disabilities, but mentally they're okay. And so they can make up for each other for a while. But if you go and stay with them for a week, you'll notice a huge difference over what you hear on the phone. And so if you can ever do that, that's ideal situation. And I go, oh, okay, I see where you guys are, compensating for each other. And that works until the second that it doesn't, when there's a fall or something else and that other person is gone, it doesn't work at all anymore. And then you're really looking at something immediate of, oh no, she broke a hip and she's not going to be home for 3 weeks at least because of rehab. So now what do we do with the other partner, dad or whomever? So at that point, it's probably time to start looking at an independent living, because those you are still 100% independent. A lot have kitchens, but they provide meals as well. So if you don't feel like cooking, you get to go down to the restaurant and order something, but you can make it if you want to. They're not going to take your car away. If you can still drive and you want to, by all means, you get a parking space and you have your car, or you can go on the bus to some of the activities that they go out and do. They'll drive to Kansas City to go see a show or go out to a restaurant or something. So those are the best ways to start, because the other thing you have to think about is that it's hard for all of us when we move. Even when you move to college for the first time or out of the house, there was a pretty big adjustment there. And that becomes more and more true as you age. So typically we will see a bit of a decline when somebody moves. So the fewer moves you have to make and the earlier you can, so that you have more time to adapt, the better it usually goes. And you're making that decision for yourself. You're not making it in crisis mode because something happened.
And the really cool thing is, and I mentioned it on the last show, but if you're at home alone all the time, that's very, very isolating, obviously. And it makes you notice more when people can't come over. And it's not that they don't care. It's that, they're living their life just the same as you did at their age. And it makes it harder, whenever you've got kids and you're running around to sports. I mean, we noticed the most basic thing. We never even used our pool. Our neighbors did, because we were never home. We were constantly at ball games and doing kids' activities when they were younger. And so there are assisted living places or independent living where they have a massive social schedule. I mean, something's constantly going on. They party like you did when you were in your 20s. So,
or better, even.
Or better, yeah.
Sometimes it's even better.
And you don't have to drive anywhere. So
exactly. You just, walk back up to your apartment, and if you need help, someone's there to help you walk up to your apartment.
They'll even provide you a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah. And some of them have these great options, or a lot of them do, to check on you every day. Because even if, you are at home, and let's say you have a Lifeline pendant, well, what if you forgot to put it on, and that was the one time that you fell? That had happened to my grandmother in Kansas City, and she just turned wrong in the kitchen and fell, and it took her 3 hours to crawl to a phone to call anyone, and, she ended up severely breaking her hip, and she did recover from that. But if she had been in the community, there's either pull cords or they do daily checks. So some of them really ask you to be there at lunch every day and to let them know if you're not going to. So that way, if they see that, normally is not at lunch today and she was supposed to be, they're going to come and check on you. Or some of them have a really neat little thing on the door that falls down once the door has been opened. So they go through at night and they put all of it up. It's not invasive at all. And then they walk back through around, 10 o'clock or 11 in the morning, and it just makes sure that you have opened your door at some point between then and now. And if you haven't, they'll knock on your door and make sure you're okay and check on you. And that type of peace of mind is almost priceless.
Not to mention the fact you don't have to give up your pets. They do have a weight and size limit, most, but they also have some guidelines if they are bigger. So it's not like you have to leave that loved pet behind and that be the reason why you have to stay in your home and not be able to socialize and everything because you do have the pet. I mean, I know we have Calliope and I would hate to leave her. But if I knew that I could take her with me, that would change everything. So,
oh, sure.
I think that's
a lot of communities have recognized that, from independent living even to some assisted living and memory care. So you've got it all over the board. I've seen a Mastiff all the way, down to a small cat, and I had one place that was willing to do 2 cats and a dog for a lady that I was moving in. And they even have some people on site that can walk your dog for you. So maybe, it's really important that you have your dog, but mobility-wise, you're using a walker, and that's just not safe. So they'll have, staff or an on-site care company that you can have walk your dog once or twice a day. So you really can keep, your furry loved one with you indefinitely at that point.
And think about it as an apartment-style setting. So you have like 1 to 2 bedrooms. You can have a kitchen. But also look at it like they'll do your laundry. They have restaurants where they cook for you. They have social hours. If you drink, they have drinking hours. They have 365, the one that I'm talking about, events a year. I mean, seriously. If you're social at all, this is your place, So.
And even with some of the, smaller amenities that to you or I doesn't seem that big of a deal, to someone who's aging or with back issues, it's huge. So, for example, they'll come in and do your weekly or biweekly housekeeping, but they'll also change your bed linens and do your flat sheets. And, at 37, I don't like putting a fitted sheet on. I don't want to be 97 trying to do that. So if somebody wants to do that for me, great, more power to you. Thank you. Can I get you an ibuprofen,
I just need somebody to teach me how to fold one.
Good luck. I don't think anyone knows yet.
I really am one of those people that just says forget it and balls it up in a ball. So.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, nope, I just have the one that I wash, and it doesn't go anywhere until I remake the bed.
We are going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk more with Kisha Steineger with Care Patrol. And thanks for listening to Real Estate 101.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocca's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocca's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
At SportsMomsUnited.com, we celebrate every athlete and support every sports mom. SportsMomsUnited.com is on a mission to put logic back in youth sports. When you ask young athletes why they play sports, their number one answer is fun. For them, that means being on a team, making new friends, having a good time, all of which are awesome memories. We add to the memories by featuring an athlete of the day and sharing their story. Nominate an athlete today at www.sportsmomsunited.com.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I am back with Kisha Steineger, and she's with Care Patrol. And during the break, we were talking about other things we want to make sure that you know. So we were talking about an independent care. Let's talk about that difference, the next steps up and what those look like.
Sure. So once you're moving from your home, I think it's really important to know that there is a difference between what you will see as a 55-plus community versus a true independent living. So with what I do, I don't work with 55-plus communities because they don't really offer any amenities. Basically, what you're looking at is an apartment complex that only has people who are 55 and over living there. And they, will offer security. But that's about it. You'll get your pool and that sort of thing. But there's no additional care or meal options at those. You don't get your weekly housekeeping. You don't have laundry services provided. None of those things unless you bring in an outside care company. Whereas the independent living and the communities that I work with do provide all of those extra amenities. So I would just be cautious when you're looking to make sure that you're not just looking at a apartment that caters to 55 plus. You're looking at a true independent living that actually offers a few more real life amenities. So if you're looking, that's probably why you're looking, unless you just want a really quiet life.
There's nothing wrong with a quiet life, although I think most of us going through this whole COVID thing are ready to be back and active. So, another thing to just check out, if you have time to check out the past radio shows, how I was introduced to Kisha was from Scott Sexton, and he is an attorney here in town that deals a lot with setting up the trusts and estates and how to get mom and dad, what your parents or yourself has built over your lifetime, how to shelter that so that it doesn't just all go away. When one gets sick, there's still usually another that's not. And so you don't want to spend everything you've ever made on just caring for the one person and leave nothing for the person that's left behind. So those are some really good shows to listen to because it really goes into what should I be doing now so that I am protecting my spouse or leaving behind those things that I wanted to make sure that my children have, or, how to handle those things that the kids don't want. If you were a farmer and your kids are, they've gone off and they're all over the country and they aren't wanting to do the farm anymore, what is the next step? So obviously looking at all those different avenues, what's next? And so really good shows there also. And that is what led me to Kisha. We really don't talk a whole lot about what is the next step. How should I handle it? As far as now it's time to move. And so I think it's really great how you break down all the different cares. Let's say mom and dad or mom has dementia. What are the steps for finding the appropriate place for them?
Sure. So once we do a care discovery, where I kind of learn about the family and what their ideal situation would be, you find out pretty quickly whether they want to remain living together and whether that's possible or not. Most people, if it is a memory care situation, and then let's say that the spouse is 100% independent, it would be very difficult to move both of them into a memory care community at the same time and very costly. And then emotionally, it's just difficult on the other party. So if that's the case, I would try and look for somewhere, as long as the spouse is still able to go visit and wants to, that's close by. If they paid off their house, at that point, if they don't need to move to an independent living, it would be a little bit more cost-effective for them to stay at home. There are options like Atria, for example, that has independent living, assisted living, and memory care all on the same campus. So if they wanted to be within walking distance of one another, that would be an option. Lexington Park is another great option for that, where one spouse could be in independent living and then one could be in assisted living or memory care. We have had a few cases where they said, no, we want to stay together and, we'll just both do assisted living. And then the spouse that needed the higher level of care passed away, and the other spouse said, well, this is great, but I'm going to move over to the independent living building next door. And that particular gentleman is 101 years old now and leads the gym class in the independent living.
Oh, wow.
wow, that is one of the best stories I have ever heard. It was great. And we were touring the assisted living, walked over to the independent living, and that just happened to be during gym class time. So that was great. But as you touched on, the finances are definitely something to keep in mind and to look at. And, I understand that they're spouses and they want to take care of each other and will say, oh, well, I'll go broke getting the best care for my spouse. But you don't want to be in that situation where the spouse passes away, you're still doing pretty well, and now you have a very limited income, and there's not a lot of options for you. So as hard as it is looking at whether you might need to do a division of assets should someone's care become very costly, I would look at that earlier rather than later, so that you can preserve assets for the healthy spouse, because an independent living will not accept Medicaid. Only some assisted livings are able to accept Medicaid, and none can do Medicaid pending. So it can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to get your Medicaid approved, and you're private paying in the meantime to the tune of $5,000 to $10,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
It gets very expensive, and the only ones that can get back paid through Medicaid is a skilled nursing. And the unfortunate part is that most of the people I see don't need that level of care. They would do fine with independent living with a little additional care or assisted living, but because they have spent their assets down, maybe taking care of a spouse or maybe, having life issues, that's not an option. So I would really encourage anyone who looks at their income and says, oh, I don't know, how I'm going to be able to pay for this if I have a spouse that has, let's say, Parkinson's or, a expensive and terminal illness. Do that division of assets early, because it's not that a Medicaid community is a bad community by any means. We just want to make sure that the other spouse is still taken care of also. And then when I'm looking, I don't have to go, oh, this worked great for, a year or two while we had private pay, and now we have nothing. Because there are plenty of communities, too, that will say, well, we can accept Medicaid after 1 to 2 years of private pay versus coming in Medicaid. So you want to make sure you have as many options available as possible.
Absolutely. And planning ahead is the whole purpose of the show. It's just to really look at what are my options and that there is somebody out there that can help you go through those options. Because exactly. Had it not been for Scott, I would have never even known about you.
Oh, yeah. And he helps me out with a lot of my clients, too. If the one that's looking, at Medicaid or needing veterans benefits, which help pay for care as well. So we work pretty well together on that. I actually spoke with him shortly before I talked to you. So
it's definitely a small world. And I had met him through some really great clients that he introduced me to and said, hey, they need some help. Mom, we need to get this sold. So that's obviously what I do. So if you're looking to have these conversations and want to get with Kisha, how do they get a hold of you?
The best way is to call me directly. It is my cell phone, so you can either call me or text me if you're text savvy. And that phone number is 785-766-9005. Or you can email me, which is my first initial and last name. So that is KSTEINEGER@carepatrol.com.
And if you're looking to buy or sell, we actually service all of Northeast Kansas. So our website, which is the Preferred Advisors Team, it's preferredadvisorsteam.com. You can go out there and you can search the Kansas City, Lawrence, Topeka, and Manhattan MLS. So you can see everything that is out there. It's actually more accurate than Zillow, and it's because not everyone syndicates to Zillow. So it's the greatest place to go out and find. You can set up your own searches. You can favorite things. And we also have educational campaigns so that at each part and each step of the way of getting a home purchased or selling. And we do offer free classes for that or free consultations for that. So be sure and give us a call at 785-213-5188. And thanks for listening to Real Estate 101.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.